Andrew Tate often talks about being a victim of what he calls a matrix attack, which he uses to defend himself against serious accusations, such as emotional manipulation and human trafficking. He claims that these accusations are made because of his popularity and influence, which is a common way for public figures to explain negative attention. It's a strategy to make it seem like they're being unfairly targeted by a system that's out to get them.
With you, it's all manipulation. There's an ulterior.
Is this Sophie?
Everything.
Is this Sophie? Oh, it's Sophie, the fake name, no face, the story that was invented.
Wanting to please him and wanting him to be happy, that I was just kind of, yeah, okay, do whatever you want.
And what is she accused? Has she accused me of a crime? This imaginary Sophie?
She's making the point that there is.
Has she accused me of a crime?
Emotional or psychological manipulation.
I've asked you a question, and I've allowed you into my house.
I'm asking you a question.
Correct, but you're not the boss here, because I've allowed you into my house.
I'm asking you the question.
Correctly, and I'm telling you.
You get to decide the answer.
No. We're equal here. I've allowed you into my house. You don't come here with a position of authority. I'm doing you the favors with legacy media, giving you relevance by speaking to you. And I'm telling you now, this Sophie, which the BBC has invented, which she's no face of, nobody knows who she is.
The BBC did not invent.
Of course not. And because you never invent anything. And she's not filed criminal charges against me. What are we talking about here? What is she saying?
Talking about emotional manipulation in the industry for your financial gain.
Absolute garbage. She has not filed criminal. This person, if they exist, has not filed criminal charges against me. I welcome anybody who believes I've harmed them, male or female, any point in the past, to file criminal charges against me, and I will fight them. I know who I am, and I know what I've done, and I know the truth, and I know that I'll be found innocent of this attack. The reason I'm being attacked is because of my massive influence, not because I've ever hurt anybody. And for you to sit here and say that everybody around you is saying you're innocent, but that doesn't matter because the state will say they're victims, and they're just going to grab everybody you know and call everybody victims, even if they say they're not, and try and put you in jail. You are describing a matrix attack. You're not describing human trafficking.
I'm describing women who are going to court to accuse you of rape and human trafficking.
We will see what women go. We will see what women go to court at the end of this trial. We'll see which women go.
Can I finish, please?
We'll see which women go.
I'm describing women who are going to court to accuse you of rape and human trafficking.
Sophie isn't going to court. Sophie doesn't exist.
And I'm describing women who have spoken to the BBC at length.
Sophie doesn't exist.
And other media organisations about what they say is emotional manipulation, coercion. And I'm quoting back to you your own words, where you describe.
They're not my words.
Coercion.
They're words you found. They're words you found on the internet. And Sophie doesn't exist. So let's move on to the next subject.
Your voice.
Move on to the next subject.
No, I think I'll stick on this one for a minute.
When Tate criticizes Amanda Holden's social media post, he frames it as a reminder of her worth, but his opinion reflects a very traditional and somewhat outdated view of what women should do. He believes that women, after a certain age, shouldn't post thirst trap photos, which clashes with how he promotes his own image. He often shows off his wealth and physique, calling it empowering, while criticizing women for similar behavior.
You tweeted a picture of Amanda Holden, a very good friend of mine. It's a very harmless picture. She's in a bikini on holiday under a rain shower, looking extraordinarily beautiful.
In a sexual pose.
And you tweeted, "You are a wife and a mother and you're far past a teenager. There's no need for this post."
Agreed.
Again, it's just misogynist to say that.
It's not misogynistic.
Why can't a woman of her age, she just turned 50, why can't a woman of that age actually show off her beautiful body in a nice bikini like that? What's wrong with that?
You can call me crazy, you can call me misogynistic, but I think once you reach the ripe age of 50, any woman should not be interested in thirst trapping on Instagram. I think she has bigger responsibilities. I'm sure she's a very intelligent lady and she's done amazing things. She's famous, she's obviously very capable, and I think she could do things more interesting than standing around trying to thirst trap on Instagram like she's 18.
Because
I think she's above it. I wasn't insulting her, I was reminding her that she's actually such a fantastic person. She's done such amazing things in her life and she's so achieved that she's actually above thirst trapping. I was reminding her of her worth because as a feminist, we're all feminists here, right? We all believe in women empowerment. I'm reminding her of her worth.
Are you a feminist?
Sure.
You're not though, are you?
I believe in feminine empowerment, and I think feminine empowerment is in... Yes, I do. And feminine empowerment is in modesty. Modesty is empowering for females.
You only believe in
taking your clothes off for men on Instagram is not empowering. It's empowering when you say, no man but my husband can see my body. That is female empowerment. And I was reminding her of that. I was reminding her of her ripe age and her intellect, and there is no need for that.
How old are you now?
I am 36.
36 years old.
Correct.
At what point will your antics, chugging your cigars in your ripped body in your compound with your security and your Bugattis. At what age does that become a thirst trap?
I don't know if that ever stops being a thirst trap.
So it's fine for you. Once again, one rule for the man, another rule for the woman.
Well, it's interesting because I've never heard this argument before, but I'm extremely intelligent and I've already deciphered how this is going to go from head to toe. It's called, I guess we can look at peacocks, right? The male peacock, it shows, look who I am, look what I can do, look at my achievement, look at my beautiful feathers. And I guess you could call it peacocking to a degree. I'm showing the world I'm extremely physically capable, yes, that's correct. I'm extremely financially successful.
But you stripping off for Instagram is fine.
It's not stripping off for Instagram, I'm boxing. You box, you have no top on.
You do it all the time with your cigar and you're showing off your rip, but that's fine for you. But if Amanda Holden dares do it, that is apparently thirst trapping.
I think me boxing with no shirt on is different than a 50-year-old woman posting.
You don't just box. I've seen you doing ones where you wander around all moody with your cigar and you're topless and stuff. So fine for you.
Are you a fan, Piers?
No, I just think it's thirst trap.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well,
I don't do that.
Perhaps it's successful. Maybe you should start. Perhaps it's successful because I do have a lot of female fans out there in the world, and they pretend I'm a misogynist, but it turns out that 85% of women on the planet seem to agree with me. Every single woman I've ever met in real life agrees with me. I have no female hate at all. I've never had negative interaction with women ever.
Yes, you have.
With who?
Well, what about the BBC journalist that came to your compound?
Lucy.
Yes.
Tate also defends his relationship with Alex Jones, a controversial figure, by saying he shows respect to people who respect him. This avoids dealing with the harmful conspiracy theories Jones promotes, such as the one about the Sandy Hook tragedy. By focusing on personal respect, Tate dodges the bigger issue of supporting people who spread false and dangerous information.
Alex Jones said that Sandy Hook didn't happen. It was staged by actors.
Okay.
This compounded the appalling grief of the families of those poor 20 children who were gunned to pieces by a lunatic with an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. They were already grief-stricken beyond belief, and this guy poured petrol onto that grief quite deliberately to make a huge amount of money from his InfoWars fake news bullshit. And as a result, a lot of the families have now sued him, and they've won. And he's going to have to pay back tens, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars in damages to these families. And quite right, it won't do anything about the pain he caused them. Some of them actually had people turn up outside their houses with guns because Alex Jones had told them that these parents were making it all up. They were all staged actors. It was all run by the government. So I simply say to you, now I've told you that, what is your view of Alex Jones?
I don't see why any of that has to do with me. It's very interesting. I've done the guy's podcast. I know him well. He was professional and courteous to me. When I meet somebody and they show me respect, I show them back. Respect. That's what I do, as I did with you.
You respect him?
If somebody shows me respect, I show them respect back.
So if Adolf Hitler showed you respect, you'd respect him back?
That's a stupid question, Piers.
It's not. It's a logical extension of your argument.
No, if in 1931 I was walking through Germany and a man come up to me and said, sorry for bumping into you, I'd say, sorry, no problem, mate. I'd show respect back. I don't know, what are you trying to say? That I sanction the Holocaust?
You literally just said if somebody respects you, you respect them back.
I say if somebody shows me respect, I show respect back. That's a good way to go through life.
Whoever it is.
If somebody shows me respect and is courteous to me, I'm courteous back. Yes.
How can you respect somebody who caused such misery and pain to Sandy?
I have no idea the specifics of the thing you're discuing. I don't understand any of it.
Well,
I don't know anything about it. You've told me your version of events.
When did you go on the podcast?
I was on the podcast about four times in the last 4 years. I did one relatively recently.
So four times you went on Alex Jones's podcast.
Correct.
Promoting him, helping him make money.
I don't think it was promoting and helping him because...
Well, it's his podcast.
Well, yeah, but I've been on the podcasts of people who absolutely hate me. I've been on liberal left-wing podcasts. I've been on feminist podcasts. Fine. And no, you just sat here saying I would like you to agree, perhaps we can agree on this point, that I'm not a feminist. I go on feminist podcasts. I do a podcast circuit.
You're not a feminist?
I don't know.
What do you think a feminist is?
Well, let's not change subject here, Piers. Stay on the subject.
You mentioned feminism.
Completely, but you're trying to get away from the point because what you did is you're trying to say because I did a podcast, I sanction all of this person's views. And I'm saying I do 5 podcasts a week. I do 5 podcasts a week and I don't sanction 100% the views of any other person on the planet because I'm an individual and he has an individual views, as do you. So I don't know why you're trying to come at me with one of his views and pretend that's something to do with me.
Because it's a pretty big view.
No, but it's a lame trick, Piers, and you're better than this. So let's move on.
It's lame and let's move on. If Vladimir Putin had a podcast, would you go on it?
Sure.
You would? Great. Okay, let me know what you're talking about.
If Vladimir Putin had a podcast, I'd go on it. If Joe Biden had a podcast, I'd go on it. If a feminist has a podcast, I'll go on it. If Piers Morgan has a podcast, I'll go on it. If Alex Jones, I don't see the point you're making. There's no point here. You're digging, but there's nothing to find.
One of the more interesting parts of the clip is when Tate talks about Hamas. He understands the complexity of the conflict, but seems hesitant to outright call their actions terrorism, which could come across as evasive. This fits into his overall pattern of questioning the usual narratives and presenting himself as someone who speaks uncomfortable truths, but it also raises questions about where he draws the line.
In terms of what Hamas did on October the 7th, do you accept that was an act of terrorism?
It's an interesting question because
it's not really.
It is.
It's a very straightforward question.
Because you're the person who would have called Nelson Mandela a terrorist while he was still in jail, and one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter.
I wouldn't
For
have
me to
thought that.
answer the question, yes, you would have. For me to answer the question, I have to be very professional, Pierce. For me to sit on the outside in Romania with no personal involvement in it, it's easy for me to say, yes, it was an act of terror. However, if I was in Gaza, if I was in an open-air prison, if my family had been annihilated by bombs from the sky, if everybody I knew had suffered the loss of a loved one, if I had no chance of any kind of freedom or democracy or standard of life, would I believe it was an act of terror, or would I believe it's an act of resistance against oppression? You have to be very careful how you answer these questions.
So what do you think?
I think I understand what happens when you take people and put them in such an inhumane condition. For anybody to sit and say that you're going to take people and put them in absolutely inhumane conditions and give them no standard of life, and they're not allowed to ever fight back, or they are terrorists.
But I can agree with you.
Anyone who does that is an amateur.
Overall, Tate's arguments are similar to many influencers who stay relevant through controversy. He positions himself as someone under attack by a system that doesn't want him to succeed, while continuing to push ideas that can support harmful behaviors like toxic masculinity and unfair standards for men and women. While Tate does promote confidence and traditional values, especially for young men, there's also the risk that his views could encourage negative behavior, such as treating women as objects or promoting aggression as a form of strength.
From everything I've read about you, I think you have certainly been probably able to be very helpful to young men who have really struggled for self-confidence and all that kind of thing, right? I'm completely prepared to accept that. But there was also, I think, quite a disturbing piece that BuzzFeed did. And it talked about the negative impact of young, impressionable male minds when they've read or seen some of the more inflammatory things you've said. And they quoted, for example, Sandy, 22, from Washington. My father's gone from a man who minored in women's studies in college, who was kind and in touch with his emotions, treated all people, men and women around him, in kindness, to a man who says that whenever he sees an effeminate male stranger, he gets an overwhelming urge to murder them. He loves podcasts, he listens to a lot of podcasts, and know he's listened to Andrew Tate.
Whoa. Let's stop for a second. Let's be professional here, Piers, because you're a professional as am I. First she said, did you say that my father went? She said, my father has
Her
gone.
father.
That's a full-grown man, firstly. So we're talking about my impact on children. You just talked about full-grown man here. Secondly, I've never talked about murdering effeminate men in anything online ever, in any context ever. So I don't know why they have taken some random person I've never met in the world, who's full-grown, an adult, and come to their own conclusions who I've never met, and lumped his name in with mine. That is absolutely unfair on every level. I didn't read this BuzzFeed. I didn't read this BuzzFeed article, but after hearing the first point, I know it's trash. That is complete garbage.
What
to
is
sit and say that I'm the reason this man believes what he believes.
I've seen a quote from you, and you can tell me what you feel about this.
Sure.
You talk about people don't want to see men dressed up in dresses, transgender.
That's not exactly what I said.
What did you say?
I said the reason I am so popular and I'm so famous is that there's a large contingent of men who don't want to wear makeup, who still want to make money, go to the gym, be strong, drive a fast car, be traditionally masculine, and don't want to be shamed for that, and they don't want to be called toxic for that. That is the reason I'm so massively famous. That is what I said.
What do you think of transgender people?
That's nothing to do with me. I'm not transgender, and I don't understand the issue like they do.
Are you transphobic? Do you consider yourself that?
Transphobic? What? Afraid?
Well, it kind of, yeah. You have
I don't live in fear, my friend. I have no problem.
Do you have a dislike of transgender people?
I don't know any transgender people.
Do you have a dislike of what they stand for, what they are?
No. Why would I?
I don't know.
That's not my issue.